on sports!
All right. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
You know, I was made aware today that apparently Joey Chestnut has eaten 438 chicken wings in 12 hours. What would
12 hours and 12 minutes.
was it 12 minutes? I'm sorry. 12
Gotta probably
minutes.
be, yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
It is 12 minutes. What would prompt you to wreak havoc on your colon? Now, this has to have colon effects. Would it not?
Yeah, I would think so.
I think we need to go to the telestrator, Dave.
Okay.
We're not.
Well, there you go.
We're not.
Here's a healthy colon. Here is a colon on 438 chicken wings.
Oh.
Know the difference. Know the difference, my friend.
This guy shortens his life every time he goes into performance.
Well, at least I wonder, and ask your wife this, Gary, who holds the record for eating, what's our favorite food?
Scrapple?
Scrapple. Exactly.
There's plenty of people walking around certain parts of Philadelphia that probably hold that record.
Well, have her do that while we're on, so she's, doing something.
Google it up. They used to have this
counted.
event at it was the weekend of the Super Bowl, and they had this thing with chicken wing eating and stuff like that. And it had to be the lowest form of humanity you've ever seen in your life. They call it Wing Bowl here on the Friday before the Super Bowl. And honest to God, they sell like 20,000 tickets to watch these insane people eat themselves into shortening their life. So I think he's probably, it sounds like he's going to appear there based upon what you're saying. So
Exactly. Well, Joey Chestnut never fails to amaze us. He deserves a nickname. By the end of the show, we'll come up with a nickname for Joey Chestnut.
I got it. I'm on it.
I think I have one already.
Well, tonight we're here with Gary Oscar Meyer Kin. And since we've been celebrating the astronaut so much lately, Chris Tang Fletcher.
Yeah, we'll just leave it there.
I'm going to be Dave Skyline Finoli.
Oh, well.
Oh, I'm bitter now, Dave.
Know where that's going.
Bitter
Just
now.
to lead it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some interesting boxing, or no, MMA you were at this week, weren't you?
Well, it's interesting. A couple thoughts on this, and then we'll get to the other stuff that we need to talk about. But first of all, there was a fight on Saturday night, unification bout on DAZN. Maurice Hooker, who held the IBF title. These guys are big lightweights, and Jose Luis Ramirez from California, who's an all-action fighter. Two different promoters, Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn. The Matchroom Sport British boxing promoter who's really moved up in the sport. They got their guys in there together. It was a sensational fight for the 6 rounds that lasted. Both guys came in prepared, in shape. Hooker dominated the early fight by boxing. Ramirez started to cut him down. It was like something we'd see in the 70s. Tremendous fight. Not a lot of press about it because I still think DAZN isn't bought by all that many people yet. I think their marketing's got to step up, but it was one of those fights where it wasn't Hagler Hearns, but it was a tremendous fight for today's day and age, and it needs some credit on here if we're going to talk about that. And I think the other thing on the MMA side, this guy by the name of Max Holloway, who's a featherweight now. Divisions in MMA are the old school divisions in boxing. There's only 8 of them. Featherweight in MMA is a larger guy than in boxing. In boxing, it's 126 pounds. In MMA, it's 140 pounds or so. But Max Holloway has beaten everybody they put in front of him. Gets in there with a good veteran by the name of Frankie Edgar on Saturday. Holloway dominated. He doesn't get a lot of credit. Not really a loud mouth, not obnoxious. Shout out to him here because he continues to win. One of MMA's all-time greats in its 25-year history, in my view. I did go to another MMA event down in Atlantic City. And honestly, I continue to say this boxing needs to learn from it. I mean, the event was well managed. There's a lot of fights on the card. Now the fights are shorter, but there was 13 fights on the card. Not a lot of wasted time. It moved. Most of the fights were competitive, something called the Professional Fighters League, which is not the high level of the UFC, which is the major leagues, but very impressed by it. Good to the fans, reasonable price. It moved, very entertaining. Boxing needs to take a page from it, whether you like the sport or not. So I think this weekend, talking about the body beautiful of John Ruiz, two guys who are not a body beautiful, but are all action heavyweight fighters fight on Saturday on Fox. Chris Arreola, who's a good heavyweight from California. He never quite could beat the top guys, but he's a good action fighter. He's not always in shape, which is the risk with him. Fighting a guy by the name of Adam Konachki, a Polish guy who I've seen in Atlantic City a couple times, has a big following. Neither one looks much like a prize fighter, but they're both going to go after each other. It'll be an entertaining fight for however long it lasts. So anybody who's interested in that should probably tune it in.
So they're the Mickey Lolich of the sport.
They both look like two guys that are enjoying their Oscar Mayer hot dogs and their beer. But they both come to fight. They both got some skills, and it should be entertaining however long it lasts. So I'd much rather have that than a dance fest between two blacksmiths that don't take any risk. So, that's why I'm mentioning this here, because those who still like the sport, if you tune out. And one other thing, Dave, I want to throw in.
Yeah.
Lou DiBella was a famous promoter for a lot of years with HBO. He was the one who came up with Boxing After Dark. He's a tremendous matchmaker. He has his own company in New York called Broadway Boxing. He's going to be out in Pittsburgh to give a little, shout out to that on
Yeah, you were telling me
Thursday,
that.
August 1st. In boxing, you don't get a lot. In Pittsburgh, you don't get a lot of big-time boxing. Now, I'm not sure about up and down the card, but as you and I have talked, Dave, some Eastern Europe fighters are starting to train in Pittsburgh, which is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised from the terrain, from a weather and other standpoint. The guy who's the main event fighter, a guy by the name of Evgen Kitrov, was an Olympic quarterfinalist in 2012. He didn't win the gold medal, but he's a damn good fighter. Fairly big, about 160-pounder, 154 to 160-pounder. He's the main eventer. So I want to mention that for the people in Pittsburgh who are watching us. If you like boxing, it's at Monroeville Convention Center.
Yeah.
Kitrov is a big-time talent. He hasn't quite lived up to his billing here versus some of these other Eastern European fighters in this country, but he's a big-time talent. He's fighting out in Monroeville, so I don't want to forget to mention that. And if you have UFC Fight Pass, it's on Fight Pass, which is where I'll be watching it. So
I was going to say, last fight I saw live was with the dear Mr. Fletcher in the Palace Inn. You remember the Palace Inn?
I do remember the Palace Inn.
I had a nasty hot dog that night. That's the memory that stayed with me at that event.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't great fighting. It wasn't great fighters, but it was an enjoyable evening out.
It was a very enjoyable evening. Absolutely.
Well, there's three fighters on this card that are talented guys that I'm not sure they're going to, run the table in pro boxing, but they have a chance. And I'm just glad it's returned there. Roy Jones is promoted there at both Rivers Casino and other places, and DiBella's done a little bit. I hope it works. I hope some people come out, and I hope it works, because I think it could sell there. But you got to have some talent to do it. So,
are these guys we're ever going to see on ESPN, Gary?
Kitrov's actually been on ESPN. He's been on ESPN and Showtime both. So, he I think he won on ESPN. I think he lost on Showtime. I've seen him live twice. He's a talented guy. So, I don't know that much about his opponent here, but, he's been on the big-time networks, Dave. So,
you were talking very nicely about that certain series of bouts coming in, and it's nice because we seem to be getting a monthly show from the organizers of GrepCon, and it would be nice to have some meaningful boxing in the area. So hopefully some of these Eastern Europeans that are coming in, I know they were fighting for some bogus titles the last go-around. Is it the Drury Hotel downtown, Fletch?
Yep.
Is that the name of it?
No, it's at the Priory.
Oh.
The Priory. Yeah. Which is a great venue for a fight, guys. It really is. It's a beautiful place.
Heard that. Titles don't mean anything. It's more the competition level. I don't know about the competition level on Thursday as much as I don't know a lot about it, which is a little bit alarming. But on the other hand, I think if the competition level is good enough, I think it can sell there. I think it can sell in Pittsburgh as well as any other city. So,
Yeah. So now, Chris, could it be something that sells in Cincinnati?
Fellas, my story of the week, I'm bitter. So here's my headline. Fuck you, Cincinnati. Okay, we're just going to get that right now. And Gary, I blame a lot of this on you. I was texting with you last night, and you were getting me bitter.
got you fired up. I gave you all the bad Reds, personalities. It's my fault.
But here's what set me off. You have your free-falling Pirates. They're down 10-1 to the Reds, and I think it was the second or third inning. And Joey Votto steals second base.
Got to be kidding me. Yeah.
That shithead should be very glad that Bob Gibson doesn't pitch for the Bucs, or he'd have one in his ear the next time he was at the plate.
Well, in the first place, Joey Votto runs like you and me. So how's he stealing a base in the first place?
Well, yeah, I guess I looked up late to see it, so maybe Josh Bell wasn't holding him on, but I don't know. But, like I mentioned Bob Gibson, maybe Bob Gibson in his 70s might be a better option for these Pirates right now. I don't know. But, here I've always hated these Reds. They're cocky. And I don't know why. I mean, they suck. Maybe not as bad as our Pirates, but they still suck out loud.
They're only 5 games better in the standings right now. I totally agree.
They're not in the race. They got a shitty ballpark. You have a team-seeking contract with Votto at $20 million plus there. You're not talented enough to be cocky. And, everybody hates Derek Dietrich too. Think about this. Here's a guy who's so hated. He got hit 6 times in a weekend series against the Brewers. 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you something, doesn't it?
It tells you he's a jagoff.
What I don't understand is how can somebody cut by a minor league team like the Florida Marlins be such a jerk? I mean, honestly, let's face it. The guy was released by a minor league organization.
Busher of the week. What would Mama on the right? I'm going to call her Mama. I'm going to add the NA on it. What would she think about him?
Well, you know what? Votto and Dietrich, they're just the latest in the long line of Bushers from Cincinnati.
That's my view.
Aroldis Chapman, Ray Knight, who I just absolutely despised. Dave Collins, who I hated. Rob Dibble, who I absolutely hated.
That whole bullpen.
Pinella as a manager. Marge Schott as an owner.
Yep.
Adam Dunn, who looks like Will Ferrell,
Yep.
And then let's switch sports. You have Vontaze Burfict.
Yep. Worst.
Boomer Esiason, who just annoys the living shit out of me.
Yep.
Did you ever hear his comments in the morning where he says absolutely nothing? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's the most – I can't get that minute back in my life.
Yeah, I know. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like someone gives you a paper cut across your eye and then squirts lemon juice on it. That's what that's like.
That's exactly.
How about some lunatic that changes his name legally to Ocho Cinco?
He's on my list, as is Pac-Man Jones.
Yep.
I even hated their kickers. Horst fucking Muleman.
That's going back, but I forgot about him.
He sounds like a German porn star.
He had the porn star mustache, by the way.
And Pete Rose, just shut the fuck up. I mean,
honestly, there are a bunch of them.
You gambled and you lost big time. You want to get in the Hall of Fame? You know what? Buy a ticket like the rest of the public. Right. Joe Morgan. I hated that wing flapping thing,
He was making the fart noises and it felt good.
Maybe that's what it was. But,
it felt good.
And he's always on Today's Players. Shut up. You sound like a man about to get off my lawn.
That's where I am. I'm tired of listening to him carp about this. I mean, I guess it was okay to chug down greenies with your shot of vodka in the locker room beforehand.
Brady. So Brady's meat. What are you chugging down?
Greenies.
Greenies.
It was okay to chug down that vodka or whatever with a bag of greenies in the 70s. That was okay, Joe.
Clay Carroll, I mentioned, he's in the same ugly class as Don Mossy and Joe Grisenda.
He's going to be in the All Ugly Final 16 on Facebook.
Bobby Tolan. Nice Achilles. Nice.
Yeah, he was a cocky one too. I forgot about him. Yep.
Sparky Anderson.
Yeah.
What were you grade when you were in 8th grade?
Please.
You should have gotten the Grecian at that time.
You know, it could have come back a little at a time. Nobody would have noticed.
Nobody would have noticed.
Nobody would have noticed.
Even Johnny Bench, arguably the greatest catcher of all time. So I'm playing golf with him at a pro-am. He got pissed off at his caddy on a 100-degree day and had him take his bag off the cart, and the two of them walked the course. 100 degrees.
In that charity golf event.
Humidity. Hilly course. Full bag. It was a freaking death march for this guy. And it was in a charity golf
event.
Oh, my God.
And he called me a pussy for leaving a putt short. You know, okay, maybe I was, but still.
Well, I was going to say, it sounded like you were a pussy.
Yeah, the city's a poor man's Pittsburgh. And quit putting chili on spaghetti. You know, we all know the only true combination is fries on the sandwich. They're all freaking bushers.
And they put cinnamon in the chili, too. Why? What's the purpose? The redeeming value of the landscape is an escalator from the top of Paul Brown Stadium. It carries them down crying at the end of the game.
I mean, I don't know if you guys ever watch their broadcast too. Like, I get it sometimes. You guys probably get on. I don't love Brenneman's son or this guy Welsh either.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Marty.
I don't love their attitude either.
Have you ever heard of some of the interviews that Marty Brennaman gave about Joey Votto? Even he hates him. He hates the contract. He thinks he's overrated.
It was an insane contract.
It is.
You don't finish last. And again, we have that same mentality here. Don't get me wrong, but it's not by accident. The Reds and the Pirates are bad because of the game plan. But I mean, you know, Kara always had tournaments there. I like the German aspect of the town. I'm not going to kid you. You know, they have some good German food places, but my God, the chili thing is when we go down to the tournament. They have a great tennis tournament down there before the U.S. Open every year that Viv and I used to go to. And it was great. But that whole chili would ruin the damn thing for me. And that's what I think of when I think of Philadelphia or Cincinnati. I almost, put you guys in line with the chili, Gary. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We got plenty of problems here, too. Trust me.
But I just love I love the scene from Paul Brown Stadium at the end of a bad game. That's got to be one thing you do love about Cincinnati.
Well, that's the one thing, yeah. But, you know, here's the other thing. They will find a way to lose in some stupid way.
They rip your heart out.
They just and it's a classless organization. How did Marvin Lewis keep his job for so many years?
It's a good question. You brought that up before. It's totally true.
The other problem is that, you know, Paul Brown was a great football mind. And his son made that franchise a joke.
Not a great football mind. The anti-Paul Brown.
No.
But,
well, you know, getting back to the point of last night, I mean, we've talked about this. Some of the old baseball rules are a little bit foolish, but I'm sorry. When you got an organization free-falling and you got a 10-1 lead with a bunch of minor leaguers on the mound that the Pirates threw out there last night, that's not something you should be doing. That's just a jerk-off.
And that's the thing. When you put out that guy again, and I feel bad for him, you know, you were basically saying we're giving up this game. So half of me was mad at, the other half of me was saying, you know what?
Yeah.
Just you really wanted to lose this game, just rub it in. Just rub it in. That
The only point I have to that, counterpoint I have to that, though, is this, Dave. There's been a lot of tension for 2 years. With this clown Dietrich standing there watching his home run, he's back down to 218. With Jeanette back, he's not even going to play. Okay? All this shit. If you're a leader of the team like Votto is, there's no excuse for that. You know, I saw some jag off today on one of the sites said, well, we've blown 2 7-run leads. Well, you know what? If the Pirates made it 10-6 the next inning, I got no issue. Okay? But the fact that he did that at that time, whether they were holding him on, Votto, you could kiss my ass. And Cincinnati Reds, you can kiss my ass. It's the same shit they used to do in the 70s. You know what I mean? When they were good, they would dance on everybody's head. They thought it was okay to do it. Pinella, Dibble, those guys, pumping their fist every time they strike somebody out with a 5-run lead.
Yeah.
You know what? They haven't won anything in 25 years either. So keep that in perspective versus the rest of baseball. So I know you're going to say, Fletch, here I am with the baloney, but they haven't won anything in a long time.
No, I'm with you, man.
So this is not the organization that can be getting away with this stuff, in my view.
No, it's not. Although I thought he was going to begin his thought process there when he said counterpoint, Dave, you ignorant slut. I was expecting it. I'm not going to kid you.
But, I mean, that was really Bush to do that last night with all that's gone on for the last 2 seasons between these two teams. There's clearly a lot of frustration in both. I get it. But, I mean, there's some rules that, like, what are you doing? Like, well, and he hasn't said a word about it because there really is no justification.
No.
Let's be honest. So, I do think the Pirates, though, they make their own bed. It appears that DiRapo and this guy McKay, they should be in Altoona at best.
And there's no urgency. This is indicative of what he's done to that farm system.
Yeah.
This team has talent. It has a good core.
Yep.
But there is nothing to plug it in, and there's no interest. You screwed up the damn farm system, and there is nothing coming.
The Archer trade is the gift that keeps on giving, really, is what it comes down to. That was a horrendous deal.
It was a horrendous deal. But Glasnow was never going to be anything here because nobody knows how to develop a pitcher.
Right.
They both couldn't stay healthy, which I think was the risk that they decided to take. But I'm not looking for any. But I noticed Archer was dropping off about 2 years ago. Like, he still had movement, but people were hitting him. And his head was such that he would keep challenging people like he was when he struck out the 250.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I think was not picked up on. And you got to blame Huntington for that. I hate to say it. And his scouting team. So.
No. I'll tell you what, it's certainly something that certainly frustrates us. I'm sure.
There's no excuse for a guy standing and watching his home runs when he's hitting 218.
No.
Now he's on the bench again. There's no excuse for a guy
That's
running when a team's falling through the floor.
Major League Baseball trying to promote that shit. At the All-Star Fest, they had a thing there.
Totally agree.
You can go and get your picture taken flipping a bat.
Yep.
So
which to me,
they're promoting that shit.
That's right. You're right, Dave.
You're
right.
I mean, this man is doing everything it's like he hates the game because he's doing every possible thing to fuck it up.
I mean, I just think that
Russians,
so misguided. I mean, just so
Russian.
misguided.
Most
of the people are going to watch a 162-game season aren't watching it because some clown flips his bat.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, you should know that if you're running the show.
Yeah. I guess as long as hopefully they're going to serve Scrapple at the stadium, I'll still go.
Boiler Yard Clark, Brickyard Kennedy.
So you got any bitterness on your part there, Dave? Are you pretty calm?
Yeah. What's on your mind, Dave?
Well, half of me laughs at this, and half of me just wants to put my head in a wall for the poor people at UConn. I assume it's a public university. I assume the taxpayers are flipping the bill to run the university. You have some clown up there. Is athletic director by the name of David Benedict. So, UConn is all sure it's going to get in the ACC or something, but none of the Power Five want it because those outside the SEC actually look at academic institutions on top of it, because what people don't see is like the ACC and the Big Ten also share their academic research and their academic
libraries, right?
That's a big part of there, and that's one of the reasons UConn wasn't looked at as a serious contender for the ACC. And they got stuck in the American Athletic Conference. They still had football. It's probably the equivalent of what the Big East was post Miami.
Yeah,
it produces some good teams. So what they decide is basketball is their bread and butter, which if you have a successful football team, basketball is not the bread and butter. Not only decides to hastily leave the American Athletic Conference so he can join the Big East, which, by the way, is a very good basketball conference, but it's not a what?
It's not a great one.
It's not a Power Five. It's not a great one.
No,
It's
more.
It's not much above the level of what the AAC is.
I agree.
They pay $17 million to get out of it, leave their football program in limbo. What the hell are you going to do as an independent? If you are not Notre Dame, I mean, Army gets away with being an independent because they know what they are, and they're going to schedule the crap teams, and that's okay.
Play a couple big time ones, yeah.
I mean, they pay $17 million to get out of this conference. They're going to be a UMass. It's impossible. They have 4 scheduled games a year, so they're going to have to go in and dig up any FCS team they can find. Maybe Duquesne gets a chance to play in Connecticut.
Yeah.
The kicker is they just paid Randy Edsall, who was the coach that led them a few years ago to the to the Major Bowl, to the Orange Bowl. They just signed him 7 years, $36 million to boot, to run a program that nobody gives a damn about in a stadium that I don't believe has 40,000 seats to begin with. So not only has this guy not really done much, he was pissed because the UConn women's basketball team wasn't getting on mainstream TV enough in this conference, if you read this thing. Well, they weren't getting on mainstream TV enough when they were in the Big East. It's just not a big sell to get most of their games on that.
It's a cult following. It's a cult following.
It's a cult following. I mean, I give them kudos. I give Gino kudos. I mean, they run a great dynasty there, but it's not a huge moneymaker. So this man has blown $53 million for what? If I was the president of UConn, if I was the taxpayers, I'd be madder than hell that we just blew this kind of money for nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
For the life of me, I don't like UConn. I'm glad when they lose. I hope they're going to get their ass kicked in the Big East. But we talk about wasting money at a public university. Who's going to end up paying the money to when this football program goes in the tank and it's losing a ton of money, but nobody wants to pull the plug on it? If you're going to leave the conference, pull the plug on the damn football team, because you're wasting people's money. You're going to end up with increased enrollment or increased tuition, and people who probably don't care about the football team are going to be paying for this mess that he's just done. They've done things like this in Maryland. They're still in financial trouble. They had to borrow a ton of money recently from the Big Ten. It just, as much as I love big-time college sports, this bullshit. I mean, if you're using it as an investment to bring down tuition, to get people in the building, to make more money for the university, I got no problem. And I know as scummy as Alabama, as scummy as some of the other schools can be, as irritating as Penn State can be, they're bringing money into the school. It's not. I mean, they're pocketing the money. They're not exactly putting the savings on to the people that actually need it. But I can at least see that. This is going to do nothing to raise money for the school. This could be the biggest dumbass maneuver I've seen in collegiate sports. Raise your sign.
Well, add one other thing before Fletch gives us a sign. Not only did you have this kind of fiscal irresponsibility, Dave, but in your signature program, which probably is basketball for them, you let Kevin Ollie pay people and an assistant do all kinds of illegal stuff. I mean, you weren't watching even your house either.
Right.
So you're going into a conference where you think you can compete, but the fact of the matter is you got all kinds of recruiting violations and everything else. You got a big problem going into it too.
Yeah.
Beyond all that fiscal irresponsibility.
And you had a legacy where Jim Calhoun was the highest paid employee of the state of it's just crazy.
Yeah. Close to New York like that. Think about that for a minute, right? All those insurance companies up there and everything else, and he's the highest paid employee.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. So,
we're giving the Busher of the Week.
I agree.
Yep. Pretty amazing, man. Amazingly pathetic management when you think about it.
That's what irritates you. I mean, from a business standpoint, it's bad. From a taxpayer standpoint, it's bad. You just built this football stadium, 10, 11 years ago, and they're not going to get more than 2,000 or 3,000 people in there, I figure, unless they're hurting for things.
The trustees have to be they have to be asleep at the wheel.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's indicative.
Definitely.
All right, Mr. Fletch, bring us into our flash round here.
Well, guys, my prediction is more of a plea. I'm going to give it a 20%er, but just fire Clint Hurdle already. I mean, I don't care how long he has left on his contract. We're seeing one of the worst collapses in a long list of collapses. I mean, they're 2-15 since the break.
Yeah.
Remember, we're going into this break. There's 4 games maybe separating the entire division. It's a very winnable division. We're all feeling good about it. And then, like it happens all the time, there is a collapse. If this were the only time, maybe I could overlook it. But this, guys, seems to be like an annual thing. I mean, last year they were 61-57 before going on a 3-11 run. They did right the ship and eventually to finish above 500, but, no playoffs. 2017, at 500 in mid-August, they went 5-13. They're out of it. 2016, August 28th, they're tied for the second wild card spot. They lose 8 in a row, 12 out of 14. Boom, gone. 2011, 53-47. July 25th, 1-12 stretch. They finish 18-41 on the year. Nothing. And then 2012, the greatest collapse of all. And I mean that. That's the greatest collapse in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah.
They're 60-47 on August 8th. And yet they managed to finish under 500. That's the greatest second half collapse in Major League history.
Embarrassing.
Blow it all up. Not that there's much remaining to blow, but, I put my prediction at 20%, like I said, but, they probably won't fire Hurdle, but they should. A real franchise would.
Yeah. Marvin Lewis.
He is the Marvin Lewis
of baseball.
Jesus.
There was a lot to like about Hurdle, but there's just too much evidence now. I mean, this year to me is the one that's the most frustrating, even from afar, because there's not a real good team in that division.
Yeah.
No, it's winnable.
Even if Nutting won't spend a nickel, there was a chance this year to win that thing. And honestly, the Dodgers may be dominant, but they certainly got some bullpen problems. That one game situations, a lot of stuff can change. There's really no excuse for this one. There's that division was incredibly winnable.
Yeah.
It fell through the floor. So you can't change all the players like they say. And I there's a lot to like about the guy. I know he's popular out there, but if this was any other organization, you lose 15-17 again after what Fletch just so eloquently outlined. How do you justify that?
You know what his best move was of this past week? He got thrown out of one of the games so he didn't have to watch it. That was
Mets,
that was his most strategic baseball move.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll get 2 games for breaking something in his contract.
Oh.
What do you got for us, Gary?
I mean, I don't know if I have a prediction. I was going to say the same thing. I hate to say it, and I know he's been popular out there, but I kind of agree with Chris. You got to make a change now for nothing more than just for the fans that are out there, which I know is a lot more diehard, a lot more intense than the average national media realizes. It's a smaller group. I get it. But, there can't be too many people give a damn about Pittsburgh baseball that aren't walking around saying, what the hell's going on here? I mean, obviously he's lost the year. He's lost that locker room. Yeah, they've had some pitching injuries, but, I mean, my God. I mean, they're getting hammered in some of these games by bad teams yet, some of them.
Yeah,
So
not tonight.
Well, I mean, blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. I guess
I agree with you, but I would take it to the next level and take the guy above him out. So
yeah, I mean, I think that it is time.
I can't argue with that.
I think it's time.
Destroy that farm system.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Wow.
Yep, I don't disagree.
Well, here's the thing, guys. There's so little margin for error, and
gotta have you got to have the.
But think about it earlier though too. I mean, we were talking about this, earlier in the year. When you look at their Pythagorean numbers, there's no way they should have been where they were.
No.
Maybe this is all catching up with a vengeance.
And it's bearing out now. But when you have nothing to bring up, and as far as pitching, and that's why you see the pitching we have. And I don't know that there's anything much past Keller that is any decent to come up. So unless you're going to spend money on free agents, we'll be saying this every year.
When I see a lifeless loss, though, a lot of these losses, they were lifeless completely during and after.
When
I start to see that means that the locker room's lost.
There's more talent than what they're showing. I think there's more talent, and I'll say this, there's more talent than the Indians. But the Indians, they bring up these pitchers, they're ready for the majors. I mean, Bieber wasn't a guy who everybody thought was going to be the next Walter Johnson, but you know what? He came up and he's done a hell of a job.
He's effective. Yep.
So Dave, give us some hope with your prediction.
Well, I'm now 3-0 in my CFL prediction. So Saskatchewan, which I know, Chris, you've called the Pittsburgh of Canada.
On many occasions.
Are hosting the surprise of the league, the Hamilton Ticats, which I mention every week I have a hat somewhere. Or our closest CFL team. So they are our team. They are 5-1 this year, but you know what? They're going to go up to Saskatchewan, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose this week. The Pride, Johnny Huffnagel, who I know was your favorite quarterback, but you once said he was the Joe Namath of Penn State. I remember you saying that once, Fletch.
In the 70s, yep.
He once was in Saskatchewan as a coach, I think. I think
that's right.
I'm not 100% sure.
I think that's right, though.
That has nothing to do with this. But he was the Joe Namath, so we'll mention him. Penn State. That's for Myron. I'm doing a Myron there for him in honor.
You were.
So I'm not saying bet all your money, but I'm saying Saskatchewan is just going to kick Hamilton's ass this week, or they're going to beat him in a close game. I don't know which.
But they're taking it.
They may lose, but they're going to cover the spread. So they're either going to lose and cover the spread, they're going to get their ass kicked or kick their ass, or they're going to win a close game. One of those three things are going to happen, but Saskatchewan will be your winner on the bet.
Which night is that, Dave? Is that Friday night or Saturday night?
Tomorrow at 9:30, Gear. Tomorrow.
Oh, it's on Thursday.
Thursday. I'm sorry, Thursday at 9:30.
Okay.
You'll get to see.
I can watch that one.
You'll get to see Winnipeg and the Argonauts tomorrow at or Thursday at 7. I don't have a good feel on that.
Yeah, I don't. Winnipeg.
But
I see Winnipeg,
running desperately out of time. So we will see you back again for 2 shows next week. Both of you. I wish I could get my fingers in your little square there.
We'll see you next week.
Exactly.
See you next week. Yeah.
Goodbye.
That's a better one. Nice evening, gentlemen.